How would you today, if you are the mayor of San Francisco, if you're the mayor of Chicago, you're the mayor of New York, how are you cleaning up the streets in those cities?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of a strange question, because their political philosophy, their political temperament, is so totally inconsistent with running a safe city. I mean, every one of their policies makes the city more dangerous, and their allegiance is to the Democrat Party and its left-wing philosophy, not to the people. I know Adams the best. He worked for me for 8 years as a policeman. I don't remember an arrest that he made. And he says the right things. People voted for him in New York because they thought he was among the Democrats, one who emphasized law and order. He says all the right things. Mm-hmm. We should change our bail laws. Of course we should. We shouldn't let people out. Just yesterday, they let out a man who killed his son. They let him out on bail. No bail. They just let him out. The guy's walking around the streets a day after he killed his son, or 2 days after he killed his son. That's insane. That isn't just arguable. It's just insane. It's very much a part of the national Democrat approach to crime. The leader of our state legislature said the other day, "You're never going to reduce crime by incarcerating people." That's actually the only way to reduce crime, particularly with career criminals. So they would have to change their entire. First of all, they have to change their party affiliation, and every time Adams says something, he doesn't go through with it because they throw him out of the Democrat Party if he did. He backs off. So this is every city that has heavy crime. It's a Democrat mayor. Very often, it's a Soros DA. Every city you mentioned is a Soros DA, put there to let criminals out for the purpose of creating chaos. In fact, all of the DAs that let the rioters go in 2020, and they're now paying them money. They actually in New York, we've paid money to people that were arrested in 2020. They all have Soros DAs as well. And Soros is the biggest contributor to Antifa, the biggest contributor to Black Lives Matter, the biggest contributor to the Democratic Party, the biggest contributor to Biden, and the biggest contributor to these DAs. So it's almost I could be blue in the face and telling them how to reduce crime. They're not going to do it. They would have to resign and put a Republican there, who hopefully would say, let me look at a way it was done before and repeat it. So you would hire a lot more police. We're down to 33,000 police officers. That's not enough for New York City. They don't prioritize police officers. De Blasio defunded them by $1 billion, and Adams has never put the money back. $1 billion taken out of the police department. What do you think happens? Not only that, even if he wanted to hire police officers, they're not going to be New York City police officers. All our police officers escape. If they don't go to Florida, they go to Nassau County, Suffolk County, our suburban counties that pay the police officers more and treat them with a lot more respect. So you would have to have a mayor that created morale in the police department, that the police department trusted not to jeopardize their lives and their careers anytime there was a political controversy. You would have to go back to deciding on how you enforce the law based on CompStat. CompStat is a program that I invented with Bill Bratton. It goes back to my days in the Justice Department when I handled FBI statistics, which measures crime and locates it in exactly the places where it's growing, and you move your police based on statistics, based on real facts, not sentiments, political pressure. So if all of a sudden you see 3 murders in a particular area, you start to move into that area, try to find out why, see if you can find a common cause. You reward your police officers not just for making arrests, but for reducing crime. And you penalize the commanders when crime goes up.
So change incentives.
Yeah,
that's one of the things.
Here's what I thought I did. I changed policing. The best policing up until the time I was mayor is based on how many arrests you made. I reviewed an arrest as a failure. Somebody's already been victimized. Somebody's already been killed. Somebody's already been robbed. Somebody's already been raped.
Interesting.
The real goal is prevent it. So by using the CompStat program, I could measure, when you became a commander of a precinct, how much crime you had, each one of the categories you're talking about, and then how much you're reducing it, or how much it's going up. I promoted you if you reduced it. I put you so far away from where you lived if it went up that you resigned. I manage by rewarding success, but I define success as reducing crime. Never had
That's
been done
very
before.
important, by the way. So success to you was reducing crime, not increasing arrests.
Absolutely. I mean, increase arrests only for the purpose of reducing crime.
What's the second data you track as success? So first one is how you reduce crime in your district or in your city.
Yeah. Then
What's the second one?
The second one is you look at the things that are long-term going to matter. Like, if you show me an increase in shooting someplace, I can tell you that 6 months later you're going to see an increase in murder because it's starting to move toward violence.
Wow, got it.
So work on the shootings. If you start seeing a neighborhood that had no graffiti start to have graffiti, you know that that neighborhood is going to become overridden by gangs eventually. They've actually started to move in already. So go after the graffiti people because they're probably also the gang members. One of the things that de Blasio did that helped to raise crime in New York, this will sound strange, is he stopped arresting the people who were fare beaters on the subway. We arrested everybody who was a fare beater. Never had been done before. Turned out that 45% of the people we arrested were dangerous criminals who were wanted. So we got them. But we also solved a serial murder that way because a guy who had never been arrested had killed 2 women. He was on his way to probably killing 10 or 15. He did a turnstile jump. We arrested him. We fingerprinted him. We never would have fingerprinted him if we hadn't arrested him. And then his fingerprint showed up on the purse of the 3rd woman that he killed. Wow. So we stopped him after 3. We have a bunch of those that easily could have been serial murders that used to afflict New York in the past. You've got to look for the secondary characteristics that predict that you're going to have more crime. It's the other way they describe that is the broken windows theory. But when they say the broken windows theory, it sounds like something silly, like you enforce people who are spitting on the sidewalk, or no. You look at what would be minor crimes that are indicia of a neighborhood starting to turn to much more dangerous crime, and you do enforcement of that and cut it out at an early stage. And a lot of it is study and hard work and prediction and statistics. I never would have been able to reduce crime the way I did 30 years earlier without the computer, because we never would have been able to analyze the statistics fast enough to turn them around and use them to act.
That's so weird because we have better predictive analytics technology today, better data, faster.
We should be better at it.
We should be better at this.
100% better at it. Instead, most of our politicians, particularly Democrats, engage in propaganda about crime. Like, how about this? A cop got shot the other day. Adams shows up and says, "We've got to get the guns off the street. We've got to enforce. We've got to have stronger gun control laws." Now, Adams was a cop. What by nature? What is a criminal? A criminal is a person whose behavior can't be controlled. Because if his behavior could be controlled, he wouldn't have shot somebody. So a criminal is not going to listen or obey the gun control laws. Neither is a madman. So gun control might be good or bad. It has nothing to do with reducing crime, because criminals don't respond to controls. They're uncontrollable. That's by nature. And the more dangerous they are, the more uncontrollable they are. So it's a fantasy world to think that gun control, which may be good to reduce suicides or accidental murders, has anything to do with crime. You want to go debate it based on it's safer. You should have some of these controls because of the accidental murders that take place. But you're not going to, you could have all the gun control in the world, which they have in Chicago, and which they have in New York, and you can have a massive number of murders.
Pat, if I could just add one other thing, because I researched for my last book this very question, and my answer, I basically wrote a chapter about you. The first thing that the mayor did, and correct me if I'm wrong, I grew up in Long Island, so we had to come through the Midtown Tunnel to get into the city. My grandparents lived in the city. The first thing that he did, basically, we had all those guys that were standing outside the Midtown Tunnel, and they were washing your windows with dirty water. And it set a tone for when you got into the city. So the suburban people would come into the city. The first thing that would happen, they were basically accosted by some version of homeless people or whatever it might be. He immediately got rid of those people, then started cleaning up Times Square. And then suddenly all the other people that lived in the other boroughs started coming in and realizing, oh, it's kind of clean here. And then people, it's what's happening here in Florida. You start modeling something good, and then people, because people are waiting for a model all the time. They don't just do it on their own. But you start getting rid of the people that are just annoying everybody and bothering everybody and making things dirty and uncomfortable. And next thing you know, everyone else starts, to quote Jordan Peterson, standing up with their shoulders back, right? And that actually is what happened. And then we had 20 incredible years. I was there for virtually, I was there for all of your mayorship.
And Kelly carried it on and improved it.
Tom, your thoughts when you're hearing this? How are you processing what he just said right now?
Well, I have some firsthand experience with San Francisco. A chapter in my career, you know, I lived in East Bay. I took BART from Castro Valley to Embarcadero and Montgomery Station. There's 2 stations right there. And I worked at 525 Market. And everything Soma, south of Market, you know, today you hear about all these issues. And I've seen it. So I've seen San Francisco before and after. And I want to know, do you think, Rudy, that there's also got to be some faith in the voters? The voters in San Francisco recalled the district attorney about a year ago. Now, have they got a better district attorney? We're about to find out, because it's coming to a head. You also have commercial space right now. Occupancy and pricing and commercial real estate space is dropping in San Francisco. And it's not COVID and it's not the recession. It's that San Francisco now frickin' sucks. And nobody wants to put their business there and put their people there. And now we've lost a leader from one of the pillars of San Francisco, which is the tech industry. And so is there some faith that you can put in the voters? Can the voters turn the tide? They recalled the DA. The mayor is been tenuous popularity right now, the mayor, which is about to go sideways because a week ago, no, not even a week, it was 4 days. 4 days before the murder, the mayor punts. Now, I think we all read about San Francisco that they've decriminalized drug use. You can actually use needles. You can be right there on the street and they will not arrest them. Well, now the mayor's got such issues going on with families leaving, businesses leaving, commercial real estate vacancy, had all these things, kind of cries uncle and asks for federal dollars to help with the drug problem in San Francisco. What do you mean drug problem in San Francisco? You're handing out needles and it got worse. What a shock. I gave whiskey and car keys to my son and I wrecked the car. I'm so surprised, right? Why are you surprised? And now you're crying for federal dollars. That this is true. I'm not exaggerating this. Saying we're overrun, the problem's overrun, and we have so many vacancies for law enforcement, we can't fill them. Of course, because they don't want to. Why do you want to be? I'll be a California highway patrolman in Central State. Why would I say instead of doing that, I'm going to take a job in San Francisco where there's no bullets in my gun, right? I'm just supposed to show it and scare people. You sit there and you look at this. So I look at it and I say, is there a moment where we, the people, can kind of stand up and demand change? They've recalled the DA, but is there a tide? Because you're talking about a smart person yourself with support from the mayor's office and from we, the people, and you're able to implement the things you're talking about. If it wasn't the case, you wouldn't have been there long. If they said, oh, you know, this is too terrible, this is bad, you're being hard on youth, all those things, and the BS that goes with that. Do you think there's a tide that can turn in San Francisco where the citizenry, even though they are very liberal on social matters, look around at the crime and what's happened to their city? They've recalled the DA. Do you think there's a point where the people can say enough and can start voting in favor of being against the people that are getting support from Soros and things?
Mayor?
I hate to say it, I don't know. It was true 30 years ago. When I got elected, some other people got elected, people just were tired of the crime but you look at Chicago the other day, that never should have happened in Chicago. I don't know. I don't know if the will is there, or there's been such a change in the attitude. I'm not talking about America now. I'm talking about cities. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was an article today or yesterday basically saying San Francisco has passed the turning point and it's gone. It's a very fatalistic attitude. I hate that. I mean, I'm always an optimist, but so I would say, sure, there's a chance if you elect an independent person, a very strong person, and a person doesn't mind getting criticized, and evaluates themselves, on honest principles. And there are people like that, and occasionally you can vote for someone like that, but they're not the usual person that runs for office. You get that person, particularly a mayor in New York in particular has great power, for good or bad. More power in a way in your little domain than the president has to change things. So yeah, I mean, if next time we elect the right person for mayor, you could turn around New York, I think. I'm not sure that San Francisco's too far gone.
I hate to tell you, San Francisco doesn't need Harvey Dent. It needs Batman. That's the situation.
It may be too far gone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay,
I think Chicago's too far gone. I think they just indicated that.
Yeah.
By the way, I have the stats for the cities. When you go through the cities with the biggest crime, and you look at top 20, I have it somewhere around here when we were going through it. I think, what was it, 27 out of 30 top cities in America are ran by Democratic mayors. So when you're going back and I asked the question from you, and the first thing you said is, I don't know if the question is right because it's about politics. You're making me think about the fact that it depends on where their policies lie for them to execute the right thing. But here's one thing I would say for the person that's watching this, okay? We had a person that we're talking about, hey, my kids are going to the school, what do I do about it? I said, listen, there's different levels of parenting. There's those parents that are oblivious of what's going on in school. They just don't give a shit. They don't pay attention, like, whatever. Then there's those parents that they know what's going on. They bitch and complain. They're not happy about it, but they just talk. They don't do anything. Then the third level of people is the people that say, I know what's going on, I care about it, and I'm going to run for board because there's only a 5% turnout. I'm going to go and do something about it. Then the fourth step is, hey, I have tried. I did try to do something. Other parents were not for it. I've decided to, move to a different state. Okay, then the other option is I'm going to do homeschooling or I'm going to put them in private school if you can afford it, right? There's certain things to it. If somebody is watching this and you're saying, I wish my mayor in my city would do this, this is my suggestion to you. This part of the podcast that we just had, we're going to put a clip to it, right? With what mayor's suggestion was. I would share this part with as many people in your city as possible, including with your mayor and the people in the office, and say, hey, here's a case study of a guy in the last 50 years that was able to do it better than anybody else. I don't want to leave my city. I love my city. Why don't we set aside the politics, whether you like this man or not? He did something in a city that cleaned up the streets. You and I were having lunch at this restaurant over here in Angelo's, and the owner was there, and he came up. I can't even tell you how the reaction was. We're sitting there, and all of a sudden he's like, Tom, you remember this? He comes in and he says, Mayor Giuliani, I have to tell you, you are my hero. I am Italian. I grew up in the streets. I remember how you cleaned up the streets. We felt safer. Kids, myself, everybody. You are my hero. He's saying this to him while we're sitting having regular lunch together, and a lot of other people feel that way as well. So my suggestion, whatever city you're in, San Francisco, LA, Baltimore, Chi-Town, whatever it is, share this part of the message, and maybe you can be the voice, the leader, to help that city get some good ideas.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.